Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be talking all about my literary fiction TBR. I have been in an extremely lit-fic mood lately, and that's very much in part due to my husband Reed. Reed loves to read books, and he is going through a literary fiction era right now, and he's very much rubbing off on me in that sense, okay? He's read like so many different lit fics over the past few months. He was very much inspired by the New York Times, like 100 best books of the 21st century, and he's just kind of like started reading a handful of those books, but he has found some incredible reads that he has really enjoyed lately, and I want to be in on the hot goss with him, you know? Like, I want to know what he's up to. So basically today, not only is this my lit fic TBR, but this is also what my husband Reed has been reading lately, okay? It's reads. Also, I feel like I've like dabbled a little bit more into lit fic recently, and I've just like really remember the deep love that I have for this genre, and I miss it. I miss reading literary fictions that speak to my soul, that make me feel seen as a human being. Okay, so first book on my lit fic TBR is The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay. Now, this was a book that was on the New York Times Best Books of the 21st Century, and Reed read this over the summer. The basic premise of this book is it follows two cousins, Cavalier and Clay. They are Jewish and they live in Brooklyn during 1939, like the onset of World War II. They decide to start jumping into the world of comic book writing. The whole premise of this book and the whole message of this book is that it essentially is a discussion about art and what is good art or good writing versus not good art or good writing, because typically comic books are not like something that people revere as like, oh my gosh, this is the bell jar or like modern literary work of our time. But why do we feel like we have to judge art based on the quality or the way it makes us feel, or like, you know, like that kind of stuff? Like, why do comic books have to seem like lesser than any common literary fiction work, is what I'm trying to say. So that's the kind of message of the book, and it is a discussion kind of about that, but then it also is following these two cousins. All I've heard is it's just incredible all around. Reed said this is probably his favorite book of this year. He cannot stop talking about it. He finished this book like 2 months ago, and he literally talks about it like all the time. Basically, Reed impressed upon me that the writing style of this book is superb. He just said it felt like this book was like a level above anything else he had ever read, and he understands why this book is so well renowned. This is a huge book. It's like over 650 pages. So this is probably going to take me a while to get through once I start it, but I've just heard incredible things about it. Next book on the list is not one that Reed has read yet, but it's one that I want to read, and that is Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. This is a very well-renowned book all over the literary fiction world right now. This was on the Best Books of the 21st Century by the New York Times. This was like the Barnes & Noble pick for either this year or last year or something. I don't know. Barnes & Noble recommended it. And then also this won the Pulitzer Prize. So pretty well-renowned book. I don't know much about this book at all. Other than the fact that it is a retelling of David Copperfield. David Copperfield by Charles Dickens essentially is a book about childhood poverty and the experiences that Charles Dickens went through, or like a fictionalized experience. I really don't know much other than that going into it. Accolades are extremely high for this one. I've never read a book by Barbara Kingsolver, but she's a very well-renowned author as well. And yeah, I just want to read it. I just want to understand the hype, and it's been so well acclaimed, and I want to understand why. Next book we have, I don't really know if this necessarily falls into literary fiction, but I'm categorizing it as literary fiction because that's how I've put it in my brain, okay? And that is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I know I've talked about this book like a billion times that I'm gonna read it, and I haven't yet. Have I started this book no less than 3 or 4 times and read the first chapter no less than 3 or 4 times? Yes, okay? Yes, I have. And every time I have started this book or read the first few chapters, I am in awe by the writing style. I feel like on BookTube, this book literally needs no explanation because I think every single person on BookTube has read this except me. This is a retelling about Achilles and his lover Patroclus. It is an LGBTQ book, and I've just heard unbelievable things about it. Obviously, everyone on BookTube raves about it, and just like, I don't know why I haven't read it yet. I really genuinely don't. I've read Circe before by Madeline Miller, and that was an incredible read. I think about that book still, and I just like don't know why I haven't read this yet. There's literally no excuse. It's honestly to the point where it's like I have not read this book for so long. It's almost a competition between me and nobody else of how long I can go without reading this book, if that makes any sense to you. I have wanted to read this book for such a long time. The writing style already feels incredible. It already feels beautiful. And I just really need to get on this. There's literally no excuse for me not to read Song of Achilles at this point. Next literary fiction book I want to get to is Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr. I, again, don't feel like I know a ton about what this is about, other than the fact that my sister read it and has continued to rave about it and said it's one of her favorite books of all time. Anthony Doerr is the author of All the Light We Cannot See, which I have read before. I didn't love that book, to be honest with you. It's the fact that it was a World War II fiction, and I'm just like not in a World War II fiction mood ever again. Just like don't really want to read World War II fiction. All in all, I don't think I read that book at the right time in my life. Maybe if I had read it at another time, I would have enjoyed it more, but like it just wasn't for me at the time that I did read it. But my sister has raved about Cloud Cuckoo Land. This might be completely wrong, but this is from what I remember her telling me. There is literally no synopsis of the book in this paperback edition, but which is, by the way, gorgeous. There's like 5 different storylines about this fictionalized world where it is kind of like a magical world or like some kind of fairy tale land, or I don't know, something along those lines. But somehow all of these 5 storylines end up merging in this like Cloud Cuckoo Land. It sounds kind of like whimsical, magical. She just loved it and she raved about it so much. And it's literally been sitting on my shelf, and she like scolds me every time she comes over and sees I still haven't read it yet. So I'm putting it on the list. Okay, next literary fiction I'm interested in is Orbital by Samantha Harvey. This won the Booker Prize this year. Do you see a theme here? Lots of awards. I'm just interested in reading books that have gotten awards, that have been well critically acclaimed. It tickles the right parts of my brain. You know what I mean? Like, I enjoy being intellectually stimulated by just thought-provoking books. So Orbital, this book sounds so interesting. This is a book that chronicles a handful of people on the International Space Station, coming from all different backgrounds from around the world, and it catalogs a 24-hour day in the life of these people. You think, oh, that would be such a cool idea. Like, I really wonder what it would like to be in space. But I've already read the first like 20 pages of this book, and it's already not as glamorous as you think, okay? Imagine literally being stuck. You're stuck in this place. First of all, I don't know how they're not like extremely claustrophobic. I think I would actually have a panic attack that I couldn't leave this place. You know, they don't have a regular circadian rhythm. The sun rises and sets 16 times throughout the day. The book is kind of chronicling their experience on the International Space Station, but also discussing a lot of the feelings that these people are going through and how they are navigating those feelings. I am really interested in this. It won the Booker Prize for a reason, clearly. It's very short as well. It's only about 200 pages, but yeah, I think this sounds so interesting. Next book that I'm interested in is Pachinko by Min-Jin Lee. I have heard over the years just praise upon praise upon praise for this book. This was another book that was on the New York Times 100 Books of the 21st Century, but I was interested in this book way before I saw it on there. Briefly, what I know about this book is it is about a Korean woman who finds out she's pregnant out of wedlock, and she has to find a husband very quickly, so she ends up taking an offer of marriage from a Japanese man. It's set in the early 1900s, so this is a historical fiction. I don't really know if this is about generational trauma, but I do know that this book is about how decisions that affect you as an individual can end up affecting your offspring through the generations, if that makes sense. I think that there is a aspect of like gambling addiction in here. There's also something about like a kimchi business. I'm really not 100% sure, but I have been interested in this book for years, and there's really no excuse why I haven't read it yet as well. I have just heard incredible accolades about this book, and I really want to get to it pretty soon. Next book on my list is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is a very well renowned book. Probably one of the best books of the 21st century. Actually, it was on that list, but like genuinely, I have heard this is one of the best books of our time. To be honest, I really don't know what this book is about too much. All it says on the back is this book imagines the lives of a group of students growing up in a darkly skewed version of contemporary England. I don't know if this is a dystopian novel or what this book really entails. I think there are themes of friendship throughout this book. And it also says this book is charged throughout with a sense of the fragility of life. So I don't really know what that means, if people are dying or literally what that entails. I have read Clara and the Sun, which is by the same author. I didn't love that book, but I did listen to it on audio, and I honestly wonder if I didn't love the narrator. I did really like the setting of that book and kind of like the dystopian style of it, so I'm wondering if that carries over to here too. I don't know, we'll see. Reed is reading this book right now. He's really enjoying it. It's not a very long book, but I am just really interested in getting to it. All right, next book that I'm interested in getting to, and I honestly don't know if this is classified as a literary fiction, but in my brain it is from reading something else by this author, and that is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norl by Susanna Clarke. I've read Piranesi by this author before, literally read it in one day. It was so captivating, it was so amazing. But I think this book is a completely different feel to Piranesi. I know this book is a huge book. It is set in 1806. Someone raises someone from the dead. I honestly don't know, but I have heard many rumblings about this book from coworkers, from Reed, from the internet. Like, I don't know, everyone has kind of talked about this book at some point, and I would really be interested in getting to it. I heard the first half of the book is so slow, but then once you get into the second half, it totally picks up from there. Who knows? I think this one honestly might be a pipe dream for me because it is such a slow start, and those can often take me quite a long time to get through. Have any of you read it before? I just feel like I've heard a lot of rumblings about it and people have really enjoyed it, so I wanted to put it on this list as well. Next book I'm interested in getting to, and I actually have this book on Audible, is The Covenant of Water by Abraham Verghese. I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name. This is a generational family saga, and it follows a family throughout 3 generations, and someone in each generation ends up drowning. Not really sure, but clearly water is a theme here. I love a good generational family saga. This book sounds like it is set in India, and honestly, that's all I know. Honestly, people at my work were raving about this book and saying how beautiful it was and probably one of the best books they've ever read. So I take all of those accolades in and I want to read this book, you know what I mean? Oprah endorses it. I think this book is like 700 pages long, so it's gonna take me quite a long time to get through. I have never read anything by this author before, but it clearly is a very well-renowned book. And also, it's a generational family saga, which I have not read one of those in so long, and those can be some of my favorite books of all time. So really interested in getting into The Covenant of Water, and hopefully I start listening to it soon. I think the audio narrator is supposed to be really good as well. And then the last book that I'm really interested in reading in the literary fiction, historical fiction, etc. category is The Women by Kristen Hanna. I gotta be honest with you, I actually have written Kristen Hanna off a little bit after I read The Nightingale. I gotta be honest, I just like didn't love that book. I know everyone loves The Nightingale so much. I just had a little bit of an issue with the ending. I read the book and I did cry, but there were some things about the book that I just didn't feel like resonated with the characters that I was reading about. And the choices that the character made, I was like, I don't know why you're making that decision. It doesn't make any sense to me. But I have read other Kristen Hanna books before and have really liked them. Like, I did really like The Great Alone, and I also really liked Firefly Lane. Now, take that with a grain of salt. I read Firefly Lane back when I was in high school. So from what I know, The Women is about, it's a historical fiction set during the time of the Vietnam War. And it's following women who are, I think they're nurses, and taking care of soldiers during the Vietnam War. I have had friends read this book who have absolutely loved it and said it was one of the best Kristen Hanna books that they have read. Also, it's on the Goodreads Choice Award for this year, and I feel like it's gotten a lot of praise recently. I really am interested in it. And also, it's a book about women, and I love reading books about women, okay? All right, everyone, so that concludes my literary fiction TBR. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you've read any of these books, please leave a comment down below saying which ones were your favorite, because I would love to know, and love to know your thoughts on any of these books that you've read so far. If you made it this far into the video, leave like a pencil or like something that reminds you of writing down in the comments, in ode to literary fiction, and I will see you guys in my next video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Peace and love, everyone. Bye.